welcome. Let us discuss on the fourth lecture of 8th week. Let us talk about the rest or the last indicator of Sustainable Development Goal number 13, that is 13.3. Along with that, we will also discuss the other two, that is 13.A and 13.B. So, these three indicators with respect to the climate action number 13, the SDG goal number 13 we are going to discuss. The concepts, what are the concepts we are going to cover in terms of the SDG target 13.3. It talks about or discusses about education, awareness, capacity building, training, early warning and institutional strengthening towards achieving the target of climate action. We have discussed particularly the indicator 13.3.1 or the subsection. It talks about integration of climate education into policies, curriculum and training systems. So, it is important to understand and to integrate it into our education. So, climate education needs to be integrated into our education system in terms of our curriculum and the training systems. The third is international and national climate policies aligned with Sustainable Development Goal target number 13.3. So, as far as the other two ancillaries are concerned, 13A talks about the climate finance and funding mechanisms. 13B talks about climate building and institutional strengthening. These two are really important. The first one is very important because unless until the climate finance and funding mechanism are properly maneuvered, properly assured and designed or framed, these all cannot be achieved. So, 13A is very crucial in that way. 13B is institutional capacity building and strengthening as far as the climate education, all these things is concerned. So, this is another important point. And also we will talk about the international and national climate policies that align IGN with SDG 13A and 13B. So, coming to the graphics, as far as the three indicators of SDG 13 or SDG goal number 13 is concerned, we have target 13.1, 13.2 and 13.3. We have already discussed the first two in terms of strengthen resilience and adaptive capacity to climate related disasters. We also have discussed with respect to integrating climate change measures into policies and planning. We also are in discussion in this class with respect to build knowledge. So, knowledge building and capacity building to meet the climate change, and as we just mentioned in terms of 13A, 13B, the first one A is with respect to finance and B is with respect to infrastructure. So, what are the key aspects? The key aspects of Sustainable Development Goal 13.3 is building knowledge and capacity. How it is to be built? Through education and training, through awareness raising. So, education and training incorporates climate change issues into school curriculum, teachers education and vocational training. So, as far as India is concerned, we have also tried to incorporate this in terms of our new education policy called abbreviated as NEP. In that, the climate change issues has been incorporated into the school level curriculum. In the teachers education, the teachers are important because they also needs to be educated first with respect to the climate change, the risk and adaptation mitigation options we have in offer, and also the vocational training, various training programs we do in terms of as in vocational mode. So, there also we need to integrate the climate change issues. And the second one is awareness raising. We need to increase or raise the public awareness as far as the climate change risk, adaptation and mitigation options are concerned. if the public understand this climate change in term, and they will be in a better position to adapt or mitigate as far as various disasters or climate related actions are needed. So, in terms of this 13.3.1, this indicator, the subsection, it measures the extent to which global citizenship education and education for sustainable development are maintained in national policies, curriculum, teachers education and student assessment. So, basically what we are saying that it talks about building knowledge and capacity. So, this is falling under SDG 13.3, the third indicator of climate action sustainable development goal. In terms of the key targets, so we discussed about the key targets to reduce to improve education, awareness raising, human and institutional capacity on climate change mitigation, adaptation, impact reduction and also early warning or adoption to early warning systems. So, we have frameworks at national level and also we have various climate policies, frameworks at international level, and we have also various climate policies at the national level. So, we all have heard about these terminologies. We have various setups as far as international framework is concerned. We have UNESCO, United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization. We also have WMO, World Meteorological Organization. We have UNDP, that is United Nations Development Program. We also have UNICEF, United Nations Children's Fund. We have FAO, the Food and Agricultural Organization, and also we have UNFCCC and WHO, which we have also means out of that the UNFCCC we have already mentioned in our last class. Coming to national level, as far as Government of India is concerned, we have at government level we have a department or ministry called Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, MOEFCC. We also have another department called India Meteorological Department that deals with the meteorology in terms of rainfall, precipitation, weather, climate and all these things. We also have disaster management prospect. We have an authority in terms of National Disaster Management Authority, and also we have an institute that is termed as National Institute of Disaster Management. So, as we can see, authority talks about lot of policy and government related activities, and institute gives lot of knowledge, R&D or inputs to manage the disasters in an appropriate way at keeping the national picture in view or in mind. We also have ICAR, Indian Council of Agriculture Research. This body, they take care of the climate smart agriculture, bringing out new varieties that are resilient and resilient to climate change in terms of drought, flood or wet kind of situation. We have NCERT, that is National Council of Educational Research and Training, that takes care of the curriculum, the syllabus, the designing of the various curriculum, so that climate related information awareness is taught or well taught to the school children and also in different way to the teachers. The CEE, Center for Environmental Education, these kind of institutes have also do play a very important role in terms of national climate policy formulation. Let us look at these organizations in terms of their contributions and functionaries as far as the climate policy is concerned. So, first UNFCCC, we have discussed it also earlier, but I will just quickly put it in terms of implement action for climate empowerment program ACE. This UNFCCC provides climate knowledge portals and training materials. UNFCCC supports public participation and access to climate information, and also this UNFCCC strengthens institutional capacity for NDC implementation. Moving on to UNESCO, United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization. This integrates climate change into formal education curricula, that is at school and university level, trains teachers and education planners on climate literacy, develops learning resources and toolkits on mitigation and adaptation. It also UNESCO engages the youth, the really workhorse you say, through climate action networks and awareness campaigns. So, these are the 4 very important functions or comes under the purview of UNESCO. Coming to the next organization under United Nations is the United Nations Development Program, that is UNDP. UNDP trains the local government on climate adaptation and mitigation planning. It builds community resilience through skill development projects. It supports the climate risk assessments and vulnerability mapping. It also, the UNDP provides technical guidance for climate policy implementation. So, these 4 important functions is performed under the United Nations Development Program. Moving on to the next 4, the important one is the WMO, World Meteorological Organization. It trains national meteorological and hydrological services. So, such an important role at every national level they are conducting the training. It builds technical skills in weather forecasting and climate modeling. The WMO develops early warning systems and risk communication tools. WMO shares climate data and operational knowledge at a global scale, and also this support the disaster preparedness in terms of education. We talked about FAO also, and let us move on to the next one is the World Health Organization. The WHO, which trains on the it imparts training on climate health risk assessment. So, we need to be trained in terms of knowing that what are the different levels of risk as risk which is coming risk to our health system which is coming because of the climate. Let us say talk about the extreme heat condition. So, because of extreme heat condition we developed the several what you say uneasiness, greediness and lot of climate risk related things. So, we need to be aware about the heat waves, the pollution gives us lot of problem in terms of choking, bronchial problems, the respiratory diseases and many other things. So, we need to be aware about the impact of various climate related what you say changes, even if environmental changes, so that that comes under the purview of the World Meteorological Organization WMO. We also the WMO also works in terms of capacity building for health systems preparedness. So, this this contributes towards capacity building, that every grassroots level at different levels and scales of management and governmental what you say government administration, we should be having health systems or capacity in terms of addressing the healthcare units or establishment of the healthcare units at different levels. So, that is govern or fall under the purview on top as far as the WHO is concerned. Public guidance and health adaptation measures. Now, let us move on to the Children Fund in terms of United Nations Children's Fund, abbreviated as UNICEF. UNICEF all of us have heard here and there before. So, in terms of the climate education for children and school is falling under the purview of UNICEF. So, UNICEF takes care of the education, particularly the climate education for the school children. UNICEF also encourages in terms of engaging the youth in climate related actions. So, youth, as I mentioned earlier also, they are the workforces. So, they need to be encouraged more and more and should be what you say guided in terms of engaging in climate action. School safety and disaster preparedness training. The training with respect to climate induced disasters needs to be given to the school children, to the youth, so that in case of any exigency with respect to climate related disaster events, they will be the workforce, they will be the volunteers. So the safety and preparedness things also should be trained for any case of any case as far as climate induced disasters is concerned. The fourth point is important in terms of community awareness in vulnerable regions. So these children or youth, they should be made responsible in terms of propagating the awareness among the communities and also among the regions which are vulnerable. So we know that the various coastal regions are vulnerable as far as the cyclone is concerned. The dry regions are concerned as far as the drought is concerned. The both side of the water channels, drainage or rivers are really vulnerable as far as the flood is concerned. So we need to be aware about this, and this is done through the UNICEF program by preparing our school children and the youths. Now moving on with respect to the India's programs, as we spelled out, MOEF and CC, the ministry as far as the government of India is concerned, it conducts national climate awareness campaign and outreach programs. It develops climate action plans and capacity building strategies. It also coordinates the implementation of India's NDC, nationally determined contribution commitments. This is extremely important, because as far as the government of India is concerned, this ministry, the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, it coordinates. That means it pulls the data from various organizations, various sectors or groups, and complies to or compiles and complies to our commitment as far as the nationally determined contribution in terms of greenhouse gases emission is concerned. Moving on to NCERT, we discussed, and another important one is the National Institute of Disaster Management, what it does. So in terms of first is NCERT, the National Council of Educational Research and Training. NCERT incorporates climate change topics in school textbooks, promotes student projects and also climate awareness activity. It is very important that we should encourage a lot of students to take their dissertations or summer projects to learn specifically or take specific interest in terms of learning about the climate or climate change related risk, adaptation and mitigation. In terms of the institute, as far as the National Institute of Disaster Management is concerned, they offer professional training on climate risk reduction, conducts capacity building courses for disaster managers and officials, develops manual and knowledge resources on adaptation, organizes mock drills and preparedness workshops, and NIDM also promotes community based resilience education. So the responsibility as far as the NIDM is concerned for the betterment of India's disaster management is really commendable. They often go on to organize the mock drills so as to prepare, so as to ensure the preparedness or pre-preparedness. They conduct the workshop in order to explain about the climate change or climate related things. They develop manual and knowledge resources on adaptation. So various means area wise or vulnerability sector wise knowledge resources are brought out and manuals are developed in terms of how to adapt to those kind of climate induced disasters or situations. So they all are very important, and they also conduct capacity building courses for disaster management managers for various officials. So this is also important as far as disseminating and making or enriching with the climate induced disaster related information or knowledge. Coming to a center in terms of institutional contribution, the CEE is well known, Center for Environment Studies or Education. CEE runs grassroots climate awareness and sustainability campaign, engages youth and NGOs in local climate action initiatives. So, this helps actually, because many other institutes, if they come up in compliance of the climate action, it is good. That means we are better equipped and better what you say, disseminated. The NDMA we discussed in terms of disaster risk awareness campaign, training for official communities, mock drills and early warning communications. IMD also we discussed in terms of weather and climate forecasting services. Early warning dissemination as far as the cyclone, heat wave and flood. This is very important, because these days we have started seeing that we have also getting early warning in terms of lightning, in terms of heat waves, that yes, tomorrow between this to this time period there could be a lot of heat waves. So, people are advised not to go out of their home or houses. So, these kind of warnings or information helps. So, wherever it is possible, people adapt. Wherever it is emergency, people try to take different mitigation approaches. So, technical trainings for state agencies are very important, and they are also being done routinely by this IMD. Coming to ICAR, we also mentioned that we have climate resilient crop varieties, also training in terms of climate adaptive farming practices. This is important because the farmers they also need to be trained in terms of what kind of climate adaptive practices are in offer. So, accordingly they will be better educated or aware to face or deal with the situation. Various agro advisories, the advisories in terms of agro sector and the extension educations, and these days we have the knowledge transfer through KVKs, we call Krishi Vigyan Kendras. At various level, this is well organized in terms of the Panchayati Raj kind of system in India. It is very well organized, so that the knowledge in terms of the agro knowledge or agro advisories, they are properly transferred through this Krishi Vigyan Kendras at various panchayat and block levels. So, that means the the real information as far as the climate related awareness, education, advisory are reaching to the people for this agro sector through the KVKs, or we say the Krishi Vigyan Kendras. Coming on to the target 13A, it mobilize, as we discussed before, it mobilize financial resource and operationalize climate finance mechanisms to support the developing countries. So, here in terms of the international programs or frameworks, we know that the GCF, that is Green Climate Fund, the GEF, that is Global Environmental Facility, the Adaptation Fund, and UNFCCC and World Bank, these all fall under the international framework as far as the financial resources mobilization is concerned. Coming to national policies, as far as India is concerned, for example, MOEFCC, NABARD, the National Bank for Agriculture and Rural Development, they give lot of loan and other support to the agricultural sector. So, indicator 13A1, it talks about the amounts provided and mobilized in United States dollar per year in relation to the continued existing collective mobilization goal of 100 billion commitment through 2025. So, what we want to mention here is that there is collective contribution as far as the developed countries are concerned for the benefit of the adaptation and mitigation program. So, the 13A talks about this. So, in terms of the International climate policies, as we mentioned, the GCF provides the grants and concessional climate finance, funds mitigation and adaptation projects. It also supports capacity building for developing countries, strengthens the readiness in terms of institutional mechanism. So, GCF is really helping in terms of regulating, granting the concessions in terms of climate finance. Moving on to the adaptation fund, as the name suggests, this fund is for adaptation sector. So, adaptation fund actually this unit funds the adaptation projects in vulnerable countries. The community based resilience programs do fall under this, and there is direct access to finance for the national institutions, and adaptation fund supports local capacity strengthening. Coming to the GEF, this global environmental facility finances the climate and environmental projects. GEF supports the technology transfer, capacity building for policy implementation, and funds least developed countries called LDCs. Moving on to our the third one is the United Nations Institute for Training and Research, the UNITAR. It as it is a training and research based institute under United Nations. It takes care of the climate training workshops and courses, the technical skills they support the development, and also various knowledge sharing platforms and policy and project management training. So, these 4 activities fall under the UNITAR, or the National United Nations Institute for Training and Research. Moving on to the Indian scenario, as far as the NABARD is concerned, yes, NABARD has a very important role to play, because what they do in terms of our agriculture or agro-farm sector, this is the national implementing entity for adaptation fund. So, whatever fund is coming from the adaptation fund unit to fund the adaptation projects is being implemented by the NABARD, particularly in terms of the agriculture sector and also the allied sector. NABARD also finances the rural climate resilience projects. So, whatever the resilience projects in the rural sector are financed, are mostly financed by the NABARD, and also NABARD supports the sustainable agriculture investments. So, whatever investments follow the principle of sustainability, that also are supported in terms of loan or in terms of any other investment. I'm sorry. The NABARD supports the sustainable agriculture investments. The fourth one is capacity building for local institutions. NABARD plays a very important role in terms of contributing towards the capacity building for various local institutions. So what NABARD plays a significant role in a way that at local level it is very important. It contributes towards capacity building, it contributes towards the sustainable agriculture investment, it contributes towards financing the rural climate, rural resilience projects, rural climate resilience projects, and also the main entity to execute the or implement the fund received by or received from the adaptation fund. Moving on to the SDG target 13B. As we understand, it talks about the capacity building for climate planning and management in the least developed countries and the vulnerable communities. So, international framework, we know about UNDP, we also talked about the UNITAR, we also know about the FAO and World Meteorological Organization. In terms of the national climate policies, we still have all these. As to name them, we have the authority in terms of NDMA, institute in terms of NIDM, and also the organizations are different units in terms of education, research and knowledge dissemination are CEE. So, in terms of the 13B.1, the number, what it indicates, the number of least developed countries and small island developing states with NDC long term strategies, national adaptation plan, or you say NAPs and adaptation communities as reported to the Secretariat of UNFCCC. So, to discuss this we have used these references. If you are interested in higher learning, you can refer to them. Now, moving on with respect to the conclusion. Yes, we talked about the Sustainable Development Goal Target 3 that deals with the education, awareness, capacity building, training, early warning and institution strengthening. As far as the indicator 13.3.1 is concerned, it integrates the climate education into policies, curriculum and training systems. Moving on to the other two in terms of 13.1, where climate finance and funding mechanisms are well defined or comes within that framework, whereas 13b it deals with the capacity building and institutional strengthening. And coming to the last one is we have various international and national climate policies that align with the SDG goals in terms of 13A, B and 13.1, 13.2 and 13.3. Thank you very much.